just to give you some stats, there were 839 locations across the world where they do that. Even more interesting is that
Uh,
hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome our recording of the Pioneers Pathway podcast today. As always, my name is Liam Villani, and I'm joined by my good friend Shaurya. Shaurya, how are you doing today?
all good, my friend Liam, all good. We have a very interesting
Um,
topic today, don't we?
we do. It's been a long and eventful week at work, so it's nice to be able to chat about a really interesting topic, right? So today we're gonna basically follow on from our previous podcast recordings and some previous discussions we've had about fitness, about the world of sports and how that relates to business, right? Really interesting stuff. I think one of the I was doing some research today, and one of the statistics I found was that about 76% of all CEOs kind of involve a degree of fitness or physical activity into their daily schedule. It's amazing, right? It's such a big number of people who really prioritize exercise in their daily lives. It's I think it's truly amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and it absolutely has translated to results. So I know last week we talked about the deadlift ETF, where it was recorded that the CEOs who tend to work out, their stock price had increased by 140 percent more than those of the CEOs who don't work out. So it's pretty clear that there is a correlation, and most notably, Mark Zuckerberg. Not too sure if he's still the CEO, but he's still a very prominent figure in Meta. But he's been training MMA for some time. He's documented that a lot. I'm sure there are like a load of other CEOs out there who've spoken about what they do. But there's a clear correlation there, isn't there?
There's a clear correlation, and there's also a clear correlation between sort of investors and people on the outside really focusing on and supporting companies where they have where their leadership and their executives really take care of themselves, right? And I think the deadlift ETFs kind of goes to show that there's growing interest in businesses where CEOs, executives, founders, entrepreneurs, and just the general values in the company are aligned with that healthy lifestyle, looking after yourself, because it does just correlate with so much success financially and operationally, right?
And
Obviously, I was just going to say, CEO schedules are manic in themselves, right? There's so much going on. You never have enough time. But there are always sort of those small ways in which you can bring in a physical activity and looking after yourself into what you're doing during your like weekly schedule at work.
yeah, I mean, you made two very key points there, especially in early stage investments. It's more about, your idea and the person who's building the actual, startup itself before you invest. You look at the key main things because to us, you can't really look at financials at that stage. So it's more about the person. And if you can see that the person, has dedicated themselves to fitness, it's quite clear that they will be dedicating themselves to their startup or whatever they're doing. So, I mean, there's it's a generally well accepted fact, right? If you can dedicate yourself to one discipline, you can definitely dedicate yourself to another one. I mean, as for the
Yeah.
point of like CEOs, having a very hectic schedule, you're absolutely spot on there. Because I remember seeing a video somewhere, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan. He gets up at 4 a.m. He spends the first 2 hours of his day reading newspapers, and I believe he spends the next couple hours, just working out, just putting in
Yeah.
fitness. And it's not easy, but if you can put in the hours, you will definitely get the results, isn't it?
It's a coincidence actually, because I was just going to bring up Jamie Dimon. He's a great guy and a great role model for the people in the business world. But yeah, you can, and obviously he has a family life. He has friends. He is socializing. He looks after his family, spend time with them. Plus, he's able to do all of this. So there is, when there's a will, there's a way, and you can incorporate that into your hectic schedule. But I think it's amazing how companies are encouraging people to do that, and they're trying to create that environment where people can do fitness, right? Whether that's discounts on gym memberships, whether that's work with health insurance, things like that. I know a lot of companies in their canteens now, they've spent a lot of time trying to refine and make healthy foods to encourage their staff to eat and live healthily, right? Companies are seeing that. Companies are seeing that their healthy lifestyle translates into happier employees and more success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The FANG companies, so Facebook, Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, and Google. I didn't say the right order there, but you get the point. These companies, they have huge campuses, and on these campuses, they have a wide, array of things. They have gyms, like you mentioned, they provide free and healthy food, right? Because
Yeah.
they know productivity doesn't come from sitting staring at your laptop all day. There are numerous other things, right? Your brain has to be fresh. So they
Yeah.
have been pretty quick to recognize that, which is a positive thing, isn't it?
It is. It's really positive, and it's their way of getting those marginal gains, which is going to translate into success. But also, it's making staff happier because their retention cycles in those companies are probably a lot higher because the staff are happy to go into work, happy to be in such a inspiring and sort of motivating environment, right?
Yeah, no,
Really,
absolutely.
really, really, I think and I think it's really important. I think it's an area which companies haven't looked at the past because obviously it's a cost. It's a cost in the end of the day. But I think a lot more people are seeing it as a long-term investment. And when you are seeing those results, it goes to show how important it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, costs, they always, see this traditionally negative thing. But in some cases, they can be investments. And I believe this is absolutely one of them, right? If you've got a nice office, a place where your employees don't feel, constantly
Mm,
pressured, they can always, learn and, if they're mentally fresh, they can work 10 times better, right? We had a guest on recently, Dr. Ryan, and he basically echoed how one of his employees produces, 10 times better work when she's working from the beach compared to the office, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that, everyone has to sit in the office all day, every day from their laptop. Every person has a different thing that works for them. For a lot of people, it's fitness, and I would say for 99% of the people, it's fitness, and it's definitely one of the best avenues. But the point being is that employees, they traditionally demand different things these days compared to previous generations. I think our current generation, the millennials and Gen Z, they are more open about these things compared to previous generations. For previous generations, these things, there wasn't the awareness in the first place about health and
mm,
fitness.
mm,
But
yeah.
second of all, they would never dream or even dare to ask their employers about, installing a gym in the office or things like that, because they would just get flat out refused. But our employers have also recognized that, no, you actually do need, there are other things you have to look at.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, exactly, exactly. And that kind of brings us on to another point, sort of exercise in general, right, and fitness in general, not just in the business world, but sort of in society in general. I calculated that I'd done 6 park runs during 2024. And for those who don't know what a park run is, park runs are events every Saturday at 9 o'clock across the country, and in a lot of mainland European countries as well, where you can go and do a 5K run 9 o'clock every Saturday. And just to give you some stats, there were 839 locations across the world where they do that. Even more interesting is that there was 3 million nine. I'm reading this off there. It was 3 million 496 thousand, or roughly around that number, that amount of finishers on in last week on Saturday of last week. So a lot of people doing it, and as an event, as an idea, I think it's amazing, right? It's free. Nobody has to pay. You don't have to book in advance, but it's encouraging people who wouldn't normally pay for a marathon or pay or schedule in marathon runnings or normal competitions to get active, right, in their local environment. And even more interesting, there was a report by the University of Sheffield which calculated that the park runs contribute about 70 million pounds to the British economy every year, right? So if that doesn't go to show, like it helps people with fitness, but it's such an economy driving event and initiative, right? And I think that's just amazing, right? It's the power of one simple idea in bringing so many people together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, it covers two main things, right? Lots of people are
Mm,
embarrassed about their fitness, and you
yeah,
shouldn't be, right? It's always something you can
yeah,
work on. So if you
yeah,
go with a few mates, you all feel that you want to get a bit more fit. A group of you go for a run, or if you don't have anyone to go with, I'm sure you can definitely meet people there, make new friends, right?
yeah,
You go together, and once you're all done, you have that sense of accomplishment,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Mm,
there's one, critical aspect there. So people are getting healthy, they're networking, they're meeting new people, making new friends. And the second aspect, like you said, it's got wide economic impacts, right? 70 million is a significant amount, right? You're
yeah.
helping local cafes get a boost, local businesses, and anyway, in a world where high streets are dying, absolutely helps them get the boost that they need.
It's yeah, it's the local cafes, the car parking. You pay maybe a pound or 50 pence per car to park there, and that all adds up. It's showing off the green space to the local community. It's big. It's big. But it's just very interesting how, a lot of governments and a lot of political parties will say we need to spend loads of money to re-engage the economy, push the economy, right? This goes to show there are so many smaller initiatives where it doesn't cost anything. It's at a very limited cost, but has such a wide ramifications on the local economy. And I think that's really, really, really interesting. That power of just a vision, helping people and helping the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, economists, they tend to think everything in numbers, right? They
Yeah.
obviously recently nowadays there's a lot more focus on the behavioral side of it. But it's quite difficult to quantify that behavioral aspect of it, right? The
Mm.
benefits you get from all these events, right? It's they tend to think traditionally that okay, we'll need this infrastructure, that infrastructure, this is the cost associated. Like you said, these things they don't have to cost money. From the individual side, what do you need? All you need is a pair of trainers and a water bottle. That's it.
Mm.
It's very simple, and the benefit you're getting out of it is tenfold.
And let me just note, there's a strong contingent of participants who don't run. They'll walk it. I've seen people probably in their 70s and 80s who are just walking the route. And do you know that how much would that if they're doing that regularly, that will probably directly correlate to their health benefits. And that will mean that there's less strain on the NHS, saving that money, less strain on care, social care, and things like that. So the benefits are wide, and it's social benefits and it's also economic benefits. And where else can you see that combined together? It's very hard to find that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, first of all, if you can't run it and you walk it, you're still better off by doing it in the first place, right? Something is always better than nothing. And look, if you can find people your age who you can relate to, again, great opportunity to make friends. And like you said, the health benefits of that, we've established, and numerous studies, whatever, it's pretty evident. And look, it also saves the NHS, right, which is already
Mm,
overburdened. So that's also, a key factor that comes into play that you rightly mentioned. Many countries where you see life expectancy is, pretty big, right? So, for example, Japan. Japan has a load of people living over the age of 100. What you notice is that they're all very physically fit. They're all,
mm,
able to do, their normal daily activities. They don't really need any help. Why? Because they kept moving during their youth. And that's like
yeah.
a main thing. If you keep moving during your youth, you keep moving in your old age, there's no reason, why you can't continue to be healthy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think that's really interesting. And there's so much we could talk about that. I think this has become a bit of a topic which has gone over many different podcasts. So a bit of a series. So obviously, if anyone's out there who wants to sort of come back to us, make any comments or questions on what we've been speaking about, please do, because there's so much we could be talking about that. And maybe we'll try and do a couple of other podcast recordings with linked topics. There's so much out there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a very
Yeah,
vast topic area. We can't all cover it in, one day.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I think, we could definitely, if you are someone who's heavily involved in the space and you do want to come on the podcast, absolutely, we could have another discussion on this topic.
yeah. No, it's whether you're startup ideas in the area, whether you're just engaged in organizations, very interesting to talk about. Or to be honest, if you're a business person engaged in business who really focuses on fitness as well in their lives, let us know. It'll be great to have a chat with you. So yeah, thanks Shaurya for that. We've got some exciting stuff coming up, right? I'm not going to name any specific names or topics, but again, we'll be releasing some stuff out on our social media platforms. So yeah, please keep an eye out and let us know if you've got any questions or queries.
Great. Thank you everyone for listening.
Cool, Shaurya. See you later.
Thank you.